hold on. All right, thank you all for joining. So it promises not to be a very long class. I'm sure we're quite exhausted from the day's work. So for listening generally, I'll soon project my screen. We have 42 questions for listening. And then it's expected that for most of the exams, for the listening, it's expected that you have at least a 30. Okay, so 30 is equivalent to 350. Okay, which is equivalent to a grade B, okay, for the OET exams. All right, so you have 30 over 42, that means you are good to go. All right, but the idea is, the challenge is, the part A of the listening is a low-hanging fruit, so it's quite easily achievable. If you join it, please kindly mute your mic. All right, thank you. Okay, mute. All right, can you all hear me? Sorry for the interruption. So the part A of the exams is quite easy, and then the challenge becomes from part B and part C, especially the part C, because of the way it's being done. All right, so I'll be projecting my screen now, and then all right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
And then put it in slideshow.
Yes.
All right, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. All right. Just hold on, please. All right, okay. All right, so I'm trying to put it on slideshow since not responding. Just hold on, please. All right, I think we're good. All right, so this is overview of listening, and then particularly listening part 2. So we're trying to introduce new candidates and those people that have candidates. Let me mute. Kylie, let's mute our mic, please. All right, if we don't mute them, I'll mute from here. All right, thank you very much. All right, so this is OET Academy, and then this is overview of OET listening and listening part C, basically. So for most case of listening has to do a lot, with personal practice. Of course, there are a few tips here and there, but the idea is that the more you practice, the more you get better with it. And then not necessarily even only just listening to listening audios for OET. I mean, you have to listen to a couple of, podcasts, and different maybe medically related, audios, that can help you to be in sync with what is expected of you for the OET listening. All right. So this is my next slide. Sorry, can you see my screen? Is it moving there?
No.
Not moving yet.
Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. Sorry, let me share the screen. All right. So is my voice loud and clear? Sorry for the interruptions. Okay. Can I get the response, please?
Yes, very clear.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so for the part A for the listening, it's more of like a consultation extract, okay? And then you have about 5 minutes each for the part A consultation extract. Okay, so what part A does for the listening is to really assess your ability, okay, to identify some key information, okay, during consultations. So most times you hear consultation between the doctor or the healthcare worker, okay, and the patient, as it were. So it's more like the things you do during your OET speaking. You hear them greet the patient, they communicate and then try to, take some history and get further information. So usually most times they are pretty straightforward because it's consultation. All right, it's not like someone is running a commentary. You're hearing a conversation between a healthcare professional and then, the patient. So part A is pretty easy, okay, in terms of comparison with part B and part C. So for part B, what you're hearing is short workplace extracts. So what this means is this, I'll explain. I'm actually going to dwell on part C, but I'm just trying to give us an overview. So for the part B, I'm sure some of us has done some of the listening audio, so it's quite familiar with us. But for part B, what it entails is you'll be given a question and then with some options, okay? And then it's expected of you to listen to the short extracts, okay? So you just see someone talking about a gist, probably opinion, or purpose of short extract from the healthcare worker. All right. So for part B, you'll be listening to like 6 recorded extracts. Okay. It could be team briefings, maybe handover notes, health professional patient dialogues, and then you'll be able to answer one multiple questions for each extract. So what happens here is, let's say for the first question for a part B, you hear a short extract. Okay. And after listening to that short extract, it's expected that you answer the question. Okay. And then they move to the next extract. Then you answer from the option A, B, and C. Move to the third extract, you speak again, you hear them speaking, you listen, and then you answer. So you're having those gaps in between. So it's specific, all right? It's not like they're running a commentary for all of the 6 questions. It's that for per question, you hear a commentary and then you answer for that particular one. So they're just short extract, placed, differently so that you can have the ability to answer. And that's what makes it easier in comparison to part C, because in part C is that they're just running through the whole question. So it's not like they're defining each for each question. So for part B, you have one question, 3 options probably, and then you're hearing a short extract. And then it's expected of you that after the end of the extract, you should pick, one answer from the multiple choice question. But for part C is a long extract, okay? It's a presentation kind of extract. And then what it assesses basically is your ability to follow a recorded presentation, okay, or interview on a range of accessible healthcare topics. Okay, so you'll be able to listen to 2 different extracts and you answer 6 multiple questions for each extract. So what this means is this. I'm going to show us an example. So what this means is once you hear the listening part C, what you should expect is this. You have 6 questions, okay? And then for that 6 questions, each of the 6 questions have the option A, option B, option C. Let's say for question 1. Question 2 will now have option A, option B, option C, like that till the 6th one, right? But then, unlike listening part B, where you hear a short extract and answer for each question, for part C, there is no break. They don't stop, okay? So they are saying everything till the whole 6 question is completed. So there's nothing like you answer one and then they go to the next one, speak a little again, and you answer. No. The thing is that they are going to speak throughout for the whole extract, right? So it is split into 2. So you have 1 to 6, okay? And then another 1 to 6, right? So by the time you add the first 1 to 6 and add the second 1 to 6, you're having 12 questions, right, in total. Remember that part A has 24, right? And then part B has 12. So if you add 24 plus 12, that'll be how many? That'll be like 36, right? And then you know that just part B has just 6 questions, and that makes up the 42 questions. Okay, so the challenge for part C is the fact that you are doing 2 things at the same time, really. You are actually reading and you are trying to listen. So you are reading and you are trying to listen. So that's where the challenge is, because you're trying to read a long text with multiple options, and at the same time, you have to listen carefully so that you don't miss out on what is expected of you. Of course, for part C, you'll be given 90 seconds to read the questions and options. But honestly, sometimes it might not really be sufficient. And then being that on the exam day, you might be tensed, you might be able to cope, with balancing reading what's on the listening part C and also listening to the audio. So there might be a gap, all right? And, you end up having, out of the 12 questions, maybe having a very low score, that might not be able to, take you to that 30 cutoff mark out of the 42 to give you your band B. So it's quite a dicey thing. And then even though you go online and then try to look for certain tips for part C, you just try to bring out certain tips. But then, as I said, if your weakness, now this is how to practice for the exam, and I'll mention it. If your weakness for the exam is a part C, and then you found a good way to answer part A and part B very well, I don't see why towards your exam preparation, you should dwell much on part A and part B. If part A and part B are low-hanging fruits or something that are easily achievable for you, you should look at focusing on part C. And I'll explain why. When I was preparing for my exam, okay, I discovered that part C was a challenge. What I always do, I would just go to the audio and just be doing part C only. And I practiced part C and left part A and part B. I'm not saying part A and part B are not important, but then if you've gotten a grasp of how part A and part B works, okay, you should focus on what, will cause some issues for you in your exam. And that's doing part C continuously. So in as much as I'm going to share certain tips, I would say advise that we keep on practicing part C, because part C is the second, highest number apart from part A. So part B is just 6 and part A is 24. Part C is 12 questions. All right. So what do you have to do in listening part C? What do you really need to do? How is listening software scored? So for your part A, okay, you have double marked by trained OET assessors. So what happens is that the OET assessors take your part A and then 2 people mark it, okay? And then they give you your score. So these answers are randomly assigned to assessors. So nobody is doing anybody any bad thing, okay? So they're randomly assigned to assessors to avoid any conflict of interest. Now, some candidates will ask me, some people that have written the exam, maybe 1 or 2 people will be like, oh, I had issues in listening. Do you think I should apply for remark since it's cast in stone? I've seen candidates that apply for remark for listening and reading that actually... Okay, someone's mic is on. Okay, I know someone that... Hello? Okay, I know someone that applied for reading and listening remark and then had a better score, because sometimes, when these are markets, they might have some... they're always prone to human errors, actually. So That's why they give it to assessors so that the errors can really be reduced. So your answers for part B and part C as computer scan, okay? Unlike your part A, all right, that is marked by the assessor. So they are scanned and automatically scored, okay? So basically, when someone is asking for remark, it's mostly for the part A, where they know that the assessors could, make certain errors with that. So for part A, listening assessors use a detailed marking guide, okay, which set out which answers receive marks. So assessors uses this guide to decide whether you have provided enough correct information to be given the mark. So assessors are monitored for accuracy and consistency. All right. So remember I said that part A, for those that have not started practicing, for part A, you have 24 questions. For your part B, you have for your part B, you have 6 questions, and then for your part C, you have 12 questions. Okay. All right. So that's what is obtained. Okay. Now, there are certain questions that people always ask about listening. And then that's why I always try to tell candidates that you have to be very careful when you're marking your listening scores yourself. You might be surprised that you might be scoring higher marks, but then you're marking yourself low. So maybe you'd have had like a 35 and then you end up marking yourself 29 and you'd be like, this exam is not for me. I don't think I might pass this exam. But okay, there are certain questions that people have asked regarding the listening, and then I'm just trying to clear the air here. Now, for part A, which is the consultation, remember I said that part A is a consultation where you have to converse with, where the patient converse with a healthcare worker, maybe a nurse, a doctor, a physiotherapist, So what is expected of you is that you must complete the notes, okay? Using the same words. Now look at it. Using the same words that you hear. So for example, you had anemia, all right, in the audio, and then you write shortage of blood. And then probably expect that they should understand now. I mean, it's the same thing. You lose marks, you will not get the marks. All right, but probably maybe you wrote anemia in a British spelling, or maybe you wrote it in American English. Maybe you wrote Naemia, and then maybe what they have on their marking scheme is Naeemia. I mean, even though there is one, letter that was removed or added in that spelling, you still get your mark. So the idea is this: you should not paraphrase the information, and you should not change the information. So never paraphrase. What you hear is what you should put there. But then for listening, especially for listening part A, they're not really big on the accuracy of your spelling. So for example, let's say I'm supposed to write anemia, and then it's Anemia, and then I wrote Hanemia. You still be given the mark. All right. So it's not like in IELTS here that, I mean, the accuracy stressors are placed on the accuracy of your spelling. So you might just have, some spelling gaps, and then you'll still be given to you, provided that when they want to pronounce what you wrote, it sounds very similar, okay, to what is provided for you in the audio. All right. So you can use abbreviations, okay, that are commonly accepted. For example, let's say I had blood pressure in the audio, okay, and then maybe because of constraints of time, I can use BP. All right. So I can use BP for that, and then I'll still be given the mark. Because these are common, commonly used abbreviations, that you can find. However, you should avoid abbreviations that are specific to a particular workplace or specialism, okay? Because this might not be commonly understood, okay? So OET assessors are trained to accept a reasonable range of abbreviations, but OET does not refer to any specific dictionaries of this. So I know some people will be asking me, Dr. Ebuka, please give us the abbreviations to practice. I don't have it, even OET has not provided it for the tutors. But, hello, someone's mic is on. All right, but, hello, someone's mic is on. Let me try and mute it, please. Participant, let me see. Okay. I think it's Chidema. Hold on, someone's mic is on. Okay, I think it's better. All right, thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, so you have to, I mean, there's no like abbreviation lists rather, but then there are common things, occur commonly. For example, let's say I want to use some specific words or specific abbreviations in certain profession, and then maybe osteoarthritis, okay? I'm sure in the case notes, some people have seen OA for osteoarthritis, probably. And then you now had osteoarthritis. Sorry, can you mute your mic, please? All right. And maybe you had OA, you had osteoarthritis, and then in your when you want now to put your answer down for the list, you're not gonna put OA. Maybe expecting them to understand that OA is osteoarthritis. You lose marks, okay? Because those are not common abbreviations, and then those are abbreviations that are for specialists, basically, maybe for the rheumatologist. So you have to try as much as to avoid abbreviations and then use abbreviations that are common. But I always tell candidates, I mean, if you hear blood pressure, just put blood pressure. I mean, since you're not sure of which abbreviations will be accepted or not. All right. So, but this is question. So another thing, okay, that we should put into consideration, right? Okay, so in part A, you must complete the notes using the same words, okay, or short phrase that you hear in the recording. Okay, so now listen to this. Now it said you will lose marks. Okay, you will lose marks if you repeat the words from the notes. Okay, or add information that is not in the recording. Now you will lose marks, or if you contradict yourself or make your meaning unclear. So, for example, when they say you will lose marks if you repeat the words from the notes, meaning that if you look at the note that is given to you, okay, as the booklet, okay, there are some notes that are there, and maybe you saw something, you just say, I don't know what to write, let me just put what is in the notes there. You lose some marks, okay, or you add some information that is not in the recording, okay, all right, you lose some marks too. And if you contradict yourself, okay, if you contradict yourself by making your meaning unclear, you're also trying to lose some marks. All right, so hold on. All right, okay. Okay, so now in the listening subtest, you will not be penalized for misspelling. Remember, I mentioned this, and provided the meaning is clear. If your meaning is clear, so don't stress yourself too much if you are not accurate in your spelling. Okay, so far it's clear to the healthcare professional. So far I understand, or the person marking it rather understand what you're trying to mark. So any reasonable attempt at spelling the correct answer has a good chance of being accepted. And that's why you see that candidates apply for remark and then they might get better score because probably the initial examiner could not relate well, okay, with how the person spells it. And then maybe upon remark, okay, the examiners felt that this is close, okay, in spelling to what is expected. Someone's mic is on, please. Please, can you mute your mic? Now hold on, let me try and mute people, please.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Godson, your mic is on. Mr. Godson, your mic is on. I'm trying to mute you, but it's difficult. Mr. Godson. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Esther, please, your mic is on. You can just help us mute it. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So now, any reasonable attempt. So name for conditions and medications are often difficult to spell. So they are aware that there are some certain conditions that might be difficult to spell, okay? And there's some certain medications. So they
Jesus.
Dr. Wando, your mic is on. Your mic is on. Please, if you are joining, mute your mic. Dr. Wando, your mic is on. I don't know why my stuff cannot mute people again.
Please keep talking because I cannot hear anything again.
Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes, no, that's no.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to play an audio. Let me see. Okay. Okay. I'm having difficulties.
Today we're talking to Dr. Jack Robson, a cardiologist and Chagas disease specialist in the USA. Dr. Robson, what is Chagas disease? And why is it referred to as neglected disease?
Chagas is caused by a house.
Hello, can you hear any audio?
No.
Okay, no, yet. Okay. Right, so I'll come back to the audio. Let me just share the tips. I'll come back to the audio. Just let us test something. All right, so let me share my screen again for this. Can you all see my screen now?
No. Not yet.
Okay, it's not showing yet. Let me share this. Showing now, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let me just share the few
Yes.
tips and then I'll play something from the part C subsequently. I'm having challenge with the audios at the moment. Sorry about that. So for the tips of part C, so now, as I mentioned, I said part C is often, cited by candidates as being the most challenging of the listening sessions of the OET exam. And then like part B, it uses a multiple choice format. So I said in part B and part C, you have multiple choice format. But unlike part B, the text are of an extended nature. All right. So you have typically like 6.5 to 7 minutes in length. That's for the part C. So the idea is keeping focus on extended recordings like this can be very tricky. That's the truth. Can be very tricky because I said for part C, you are reading and you're trying to make an attempt to listen. So you are reading, you are listening, you are reading, you are listening. So it's quite demanding, okay, for one to do both activities at the same time. All right. So keeping focus is a challenge here. Now, one of the first tips, okay, I always tell candidates is to begin with a top-down approach, okay? While trying to listen to OET listening part C. Okay, so sorry if this link expired, kindly rejoin the same link again so that we can continue the class. All right, so a top-down approach, what does it refer to when you're listening for your OET listening part C? So it's an approach, okay, to a new text which allows us to engage our own background knowledge, okay, in relation to a topic. So for example, if you're about to listen to a radio documentary, so sometimes you're listening to a documentary, okay, for your part C, and then maybe you hear something about Zika virus. Okay, so we'll go into that documentary with certain ideas and expectations. So when you hear that, oh, this is a documentary about Zika virus, you already know that, oh, we're talking about the etiology. All right, so I was trying to explain that one of the tips, okay, that'll be very important in your OET listening part C is the ability to use a top-down approach, okay? The top-down approach means, for example, if you hear that about to talk about a documentary, maybe about Zika virus, okay, so you should expect certain things that you should hear. Maybe what are the effects of the virus, okay? probably how to avoid catching the virus, and then try to make comparison between Zika virus and other viruses for knowledge. So your background knowledge alone, okay, can help you, okay, with your listening part C. So for example, if you have sufficient knowledge or maybe on malaria, for example, and then maybe the documentary you're about to hear is about malaria, it could help you fast track, okay, in terms of understanding. Hello, someone's mic is on. Please kindly mute your mic. Fidelia, mic is on. Dance mic is on. Jane's mic is on. Dance, Fidelia, Jane. If your mic is on, just mute it, please, so that I don't have these interruptions. All right. Okay, so okay, now let's still follow through with the top-down approach I was trying to explain. So the logical expectations we have, okay, when we listen exist to allow us to make more sense more quickly of the new information. So just as we would approach a text like this in our own language to help us make sense of it, we can take the same approach to an OET listening part tip text, okay? So the first line, listen, the first line for your will always tell us who is speaking. So when you hear the audio, you know who is speaking, and then what the topic of the text will be. Okay, so you know that you hear something like Jane is a maybe research assistant, and she'll be making a presentation about Zika virus. So something like that. You hear that at the beginning. So you have an idea of what you are expected to hear from the presentation. So for example, let me give you an example here now. So you can hear something. In the audio, you hear something for your listening party. You hear an interview with a cardiologist called Dr. Jack Robson, who is an expert on Chagas disease. So what is this topic going to be here? Hopefully you can hear that the topic here will be Chagas disease. So once you have an idea of your topic statement, it helps you to follow through with the audio. Please, someone's mic is on. Lauren Femi Ayodele, your mic is on. Onalo Fidelia, your mic is on too. All right, thank you. So you didn't know that the topic here, or is Fidelia on this call? I'm trying to mute her, I can't mute her. All right. So if you know that the topic is Chagas disease, it helps you to cool down and then focus your listening ability to Chagas disease. Now, one of the tips that is also used, okay, is using the interview question as a guide. Okay, using the interview question as a guide, very, very important. Okay, so what does this mean? So you know that I mentioned that for listening part C, you have 2 extracts, right? Can you all hear me? I said for listening part C, you have 2 extracts. Okay, the first extract is for the first 6 questions. Okay, and then the second extract is for the next 6 questions. So total, you're going to be having 12 questions for your OET part C. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So there will either be in a form of presentation with only one speaker, okay, or there will be in a form of interview. So you might hear 2 speakers. Maybe someone is interviewing. Okay, someone is interviewing someone. You can hear maybe it's a researcher, and they have someone that is interviewing the researcher on maybe what he has recently discovered. So it could be 2 people, or it could just be someone making a presentation on his own. So it could just be 1 speaker or 2 speakers. Okay, so if it's an interview, listen, if it's an interview, this can be useful as each time the interviewer asks a question, it should act as a prompt to the listener that he or she needs to focus on a new question from the question paper. Now, remember, one thing that candidates tend not to do is this, okay? Now, when you see your questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's an interview. In fact, interview makes it more easier. Once you know it's an interview question, whenever you see that there is a change in question, so let's say interviewer, let's say the first question was, Mr. Solomon, we heard about your discovery about Zika virus. Okay, Mr. Solomon will now respond. Yeah, it was a difficult process. We discovered that people in Brazil we are dying of this virus, and then we had to isolate this virus and do some genomic studies, and this is full stop. You know that first part is for the first question. So the interviewer can now ask another question. Okay, so how is this Zika virus transmitted? You should know that once that question has changed, okay, you've moved to the next question in your question booklet. So you know that, okay, you've already jumped to question 2. Some candidates, you just be there, and then you don't know, you still think that's answering question 1, and then they already changed the question, even from the interview. Question 2 is already going, and before you now realize yourself, you're already in question 4. And then you be like, you didn't answer question 2, you didn't answer question 3. And then, all the whole anxiety attacks will now start happening in the exam. So you have to follow through. Now, whenever there's a change, okay, in question, it's usually moving to the next question for the OET listening part C. All right? So very, very important, very, very important information. All right. So now, let's look at this, for example. I wish I had played the audio. I'll try to play it again so that we can follow through. I'll try to play it again so it will make more sense. Now, if you look at the question paper, now let's assume we have our question paper. This assumption. Now, since we didn't listen to the audio, I'm going to try as much as possible to play the audio again. Now, we'll see the first question. Okay, the first question is...
I can't
the first
hear
question,
you.
hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Am I not clear enough, please?
You are.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Probably maybe it's your network. I don't know. Maybe you have to...
On my own hand, I can't hear clearly.
Is anybody having any breaking? Okay. Any interruptions from my speech?
Yeah,
No.
no, it's clear. It's clear. Mine is clear.
Okay, yours is clear. Okay. Probably what you can do is maybe you just log out and then try to rejoin. Okay. So once you rejoin, thank you, Precious Akinusi. So once you try to rejoin, it might be clearer for you. So network issue. So now let's look at this as a guide to what I said. Now, if you look at the question paper, we'll see the first question. Okay, let's assume we have the question paper in front of us. You see something like, why does Dr. Esther, Esther, you can type on the chat box because you are not also clear yourself. Esther, you can type on the chat box. I will appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So now, you see, if we look at the question paper, we'll see the question is, let's assume we have the question paper for this, okay? You see, why does Dr. Robson regard Chagas as a neglected disease? Now, listen up. The next question the interviewer asks, okay, that the interviewer asking maybe the researcher, okay, is that are there concerns in the USA about Chagas? Okay, that's like the next question asking. Now, let's put that into perspective. And the next question in the question paper, listen, that you are holding is that Dr. Robson says concerns over Chagas in the US as a result of. Now, listen, remember I said that if you're doing an interviewer question, whenever there is a change in question, please move to the next question. Don't dwell in question 1 when the interviewer has changed question and you're still looking at question 1. Once there's a change in question, you move to question 2. Because usually for interviewer-based kind of interaction for your audio or for your listening questions, you know that a change in question by the interviewer suggests that you should move to the next question. So if you had access to this document, you've seen that the second question that you have on your question booklet is Dr. Robson says concern, okay, over Chagas in the USA are the result of. That's the question you get. When you now listen to the audio, you see that the audio from here is saying that the next question is saying, are there concerns in the USA about Chagas? That's the next question in the interview. Are there concerns in the USA about Chagas? Okay. And then in your question booklet, the question you're seeing there is Dr. Robson shares concerns over Chagas in the USA as a result of. Okay. So we see that as the interviewer changed the question, you too should also move to your next question. I know that this is what you should be looking out for to get your answers. Now, hopefully, you can see the answers that the interviewer's question and the question on the question paper are strongly matched. Okay. So we have a very useful guide as to when we should be moving on, okay, to the next question. Because one thing that kills candidates is that you dwell on one particular question and then you lose like 2 further questions because you're not following through with the audio. And once you're not following through with the audio, you miss questions. And before you now get yourself, you're already like from number 1, you didn't hear number 2, you didn't hear number 3, you didn't know when they moved to number 4, and then suddenly you're in number 5. And then voila. I mean, you'll be having lower scores. So it's important, okay, very important that you don't miss this strategy. So this is an important strategy, and that actually helped me during my exam. I remember that I was not following through at one point in time. I will not even know when they've gotten to question 4, and I'm still looking at question 1 and 2, right? So by the time I employed this, especially for interviewer based, I found out that I was able to flow better, and then I was having better score, at least over 6. I have like 4, sometimes I have like 5, and then seldom maybe 6. Okay, listening part C. Now, I'll be taking questions after this. So let me just try and run through this quickly. As I said earlier, the best way to practice listening is to keep on listening. There's really no one tip or one special, process. But this tip is just to guide us so that by the time we are listening to our listening part C, okay, subsequently we'll be able to have better score in those regards. Now for tip 3, okay. So tip 3 is listen out for signposting language. Signposting language. Someone's mic is on and is really interrupting. So Fidelia, your mic is on. Chidima, Dr. Chidima, your mic is on. So the recordings will be available in case you're having challenges with this. I'm already recording this already. So I'll send it to the group. So Dr. Chidima and Fidelia, your mics are on. So kindly mute your mics. So if you are listening to the presentation, now for signposting language, listen. Now listen to what I'm trying to explain here. Now, if you are listening to the presentation, now listen, rather than the interview, then you need to listen out for signposting languages as your guide. Now, let me explain what signposting language is. So signposting language is a language which indicates the beginning of a new idea, okay, or the end of an old idea. Are you with me? So signposting language is saying this could be the beginning of an old, new idea or the end of an old idea. So what does it help us to do? It helps us to organize longer stretches of speech. Okay, so longer stretches of speech. Now, let me give you an example. Now, when you are listening to the listening part C, there are certain things you'll be hearing, certain words, and those words help you to guide your thoughts process. Now, look at this. Now, example of those adverbs that they use in sequencing. You hear something like first, second, those are signposts. Okay. You also hear things like now. So, for example, in the listening, you hear things like maybe a question will say, what does the speaker say about chicken, for example, right? Don't mind me, I feel like eating chicken. But let's say about chicken. Maybe the first option says, chicken is not available in Kaduna State. Okay? Maybe the big question now says, chicken is available usually during the dry season in Kaduna State. Okay? Because you can have very similar stuff. Maybe the third one now says, chicken is usually imported to Kaduna State, for example. So when you're listening, you have to look for signposts because you might be listening to things like, you might be saying, in the audio may tell you something like this. They may say, so there is no chicken in Kaduna State. Okay, in the audio, you will hear that. Then you will now hear, although now becomes your signpost. Now, Kaduna State can conveniently import chicken into their state. Okay, so now what gave it away is the signpost. So you're listening for signpost. Now. Yes, they don't have chicken in Kaduna. You have picked the first option, that there is no chicken in Kaduna State. But then when you listen for signpost. Now has changed that orientation already. It has changed that idea. You've progressed from that old idea that Kaduna State does not have chicken. But now, currently, they can import chicken. So your answer will not be A, Because when you're listening to listening part C, you might be confused. You might be confused if you don't look for this signpost. I can tell you, if you don't look for this signpost, you might be confused. Because this is what candidates do. Maybe they just hear in the audio that Kaduna does not have chicken. And they just look at option A, they just pick option A, and they will not even look for any signpost. They just want that part to just finish, and then let's go to the next question 3, for example, and then continue. But then when you are listening, look for signposts. Signposts can change an idea, okay? Or it can mark the beginning of a new idea, or can end a particular old idea, okay? So now what's like, so look out for them. First, look out for them. Second, look out for them, because these tend to change the topic statement, okay? And, expose certain new development of an idea. Now, here's an example. Let me show you all an example. So now let me just read like the way they read it. So they'll say in OET for listening party here, you hear an occupational therapist called Anna Matthews giving a talk to a group of trainee doctors. Okay, now there'll be no interviewer here to break up the question. Okay, so in this kind of setting, as I said in part C, you might have just one person speaking, or you can have 2 people speaking. When you have 2 people speaking, usually someone is interviewing the other person. Okay, but then sometimes you can just have one person just making his own presentation, right? So in this regard, now one person is speaking. Now, but listen. Near the beginning of this presentation, the speaker says, now this is what the speaker said. The speaker said something like this. First, now look at this. First, let's think about what we understand by occupational therapy. Very helpfully, this relates to the focus on the first question, which is, Anna says that the main focus on our work as an occupational therapist is, now look at this. In your question booklet, you might see a question like this for this kind of audio. Anna says that the main focus on our work as an occupational therapist is, that could be the question on your answer, on your question booklet, sorry. Okay, you see the question like, Anna says that the main focus on our work as an occupational therapist is dash, right? But when you are now listening to the audio, look for signposts. Now, in this place now, look at where my cursor is, okay? Now, what's the signpost in this place? When the speaker says, first, let's think about what we understand by occupational therapy. What's the signpost here? What's the signpost language?
First.
First. Okay. So by the time you hear first, you know that, okay, there's something they want to draw your emphasis to. Okay. There's an idea, a new idea they want to bring to you. And take note of that signpost language. Now, the speaker then shows that she's moving on to her next idea. Now, look at it now. She has first said, first. Now, look at it in the audio. She said, first, let's think about what we understand by occupational therapy. Then she started talking. Now, look at this, my next paragraph, which is the last paragraph on this slideshow. Now, the speaker now started with another new idea. What's the signpost here? Now, she now said, now, onto my case study. So you can see she has switched from first. Let's think about what we understand about occupational therapists. So another signpost language. So basically here is signpost language. Move. Know that she has changed her strain of idea. Okay, so you can see now on to my case study. Now let me advise everybody doing listening party. Go to your listening audio. Listen to just listening party. Look for this signpost. So now you see that it will help you in guide your movements in your questions and also help you to answer. My case study, it involves a patient called Ted. The next question in the exam. Now look at what the next question in the exam is saying. Now look at what the next question in the exam is saying. The next question for this audio, for this listening says, when Anna first met the patient called Ted, that was the question. But you can see that this signpost has already helped you to move on, to know that, oh, this person has changed ideas. This person is now going to involve a patient called Ted. Okay, and that will help you to know that you need to move to the next question. Right? Because one of the things that I said that always affect candidates in listening parties is that they don't even know when the question has moved to the next one. So You're just dwelling in particular one and then you're confused here and there. So we can see now that the speaker uses the signposting language, okay, to help listeners navigate the questions. Practice listening out for it when you do for your listening. So when you're doing your listening party, look for signposts. Intentionally look for them. They will guide you. All right. So I'll be taking questions. Don't worry. I'll be taking questions. Now, there's a wealth of English language content out there. Okay. Can you all see my screen? So one of the things I always advise candidates to do, try to listen to podcasts. Okay. So try to listen to certain interviews, listen to BBC podcasts. Okay. Listen to audios frequently, and then listen to signposts. When you're listening, listen for signposts. Okay. So when you listen to those signposts, it helps you to guide your thoughts. Okay, I know that you need to move to the next question and then answer it. Now, some people have come to me, okay, that do you think, what should you really use that 90 minutes to do, 90 seconds, sorry, to do before they commence the listening? Try to skim through all the 1 to 6 questions, okay? Try to skim through them. And as you're skimming through them, now this is the advice. Look for the keywords. Okay, now let me go back and explain what that means. Now let's look at this one now. Okay, can you all see my cursor? Let me get another cursor here. Okay, let me use a laser pointer. All right, now can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now look at this question here. This question says, here now, when Anna first met the patient called Ted, okay, she was. So what's the keyword here? What's the most important thing in this question?
First met.
First met. Thank you. First met. So by the time you are using your 90 seconds to read your listing, look for those keywords. So if I want to score better, I'll just come and use my pencil to underline first met. So that by the time I'm listening to the audio, my eyes is focused on first met. So when I just listen to anything that looks like a synonym of first met, so if I hear something like Anna initially met, I know that I'm already where I will get my answer already. Okay, I already know that. Okay, I'm listening to this, and then you will now listen to the audio carefully. So you have to look for certain keywords, okay, that will help you. So first met is the keyword. Let me go to the other question I posted there. Now let's look at this one. Okay, this one says, first, let's think about what we understand by occupational therapy. Okay, that's what the speaker is saying. Okay, and now I'm very hopeful this relates. Now see the first question, which is, Anna says that the main focus on our work as an occupational therapist is, okay, this is the question. What do you think is the major thing that you, if you are reading in your maybe OET listening party, that you really want to underline and lay emphasis on? From this one, Anna says that the main focus on our work as an occupational therapist is, what do you think is the bone of contention here?
Occupational therapy.
Main focus.
Main focus. So main focus is what you should listen out, look out for. So when you're doing your 90 seconds, those are the things you should be underlining. It's not, let me just tell you the honest truth. If you just look at that 90, if you look at within that 90 seconds and read everything, you forget like 70% of it. Because number one, you're reading under tension. You are reading with no prompt. When I mean with no prompt, with no audio, you don't understand what you are reading really. That's the honest truth. You don't really understand because there is no audio to match what you are reading for that 90 seconds. There's really no audio. So you are not reading with, maximum understanding. You're just reading. So once you are doing that 90 seconds, what you should do is that, this question, what is the most important thing? You underline keywords. Okay, when you underline keywords, it helps you to cone down. That when you're not listening, you're listening for signposts, you're listening for when the interviewer goes to the next question, you can be able to match them immediately. That, the main thing here is main focus. So in the audio, you may hear things like may hear things like, well, there are other focused, for my work as an occupational therapist, such as maybe going to the industry and doing this. However, has become a signpost. However, okay, you're not listening to it because you already marked main focus. You know that she mentioned focus in the beginning, but she didn't mention main focus. She didn't mention anything that looks like the main focus. She said, my focus in occupational therapy is to go to the industry. Scores, right? So signposting language are very important, okay? And then knowing when the interviewer has actually switched questions. Okay, all right. So hold on. I was trying to see, but if you have a question, you can ask me. I'm trying to play an audio. All right, I'm still with you. I'm trying to play an audio to see how we can marry this together. If not, by the time we have the next listening class, I'll just be playing audios for us. So that will be answering. So the next listening class we're going to have is more practical. In the sense that by the time we have the listening session, I'm playing the audio, and then we're trying to answer together. And then we'll see this one already set aside. And if you look at my screen, I'm going to share my screen again. Now, if you look at my screen here, you can see I've even gone as far as bringing out the transcript. Okay, I don't know if you can see my screen though. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand on the chat box in an orderly fashion so that I can give answers to it. Okay, so I'm trying to see if I can play the audio while I'm listening to our questions. All right. So raise your hand on the chat box, and then, or you can just comment once you, but hold on, please. Let me see if I can. Just give me a minute. Let me see if I can play this audio. All right, let me share screen. Can you all see my screen? So if you have a question, just ask me.
But it attracts relatively little publicity or funding for research. This indifferent.
Can you hear my audio now?
It's on, but it's not clear.
Let me play.
Part C. In this part of the test, you'll hear 2 different extracts. In each extract, you'll hear health professionals talking about aspects of their work. For questions 31 to 42, choose the answer A, B, or C, which fits best according to what you hear. Complete your answer.
Were you able to hear my?
Yes.
Okay, so since I've tested, let me share the file on the group. So if I have a device, I'll share it on the Telegram page, so you can be looking through. Okay. Can we all see I'm trying to see if I can share it on this page. Can we see it on the Telegram page? Let me see if I can share them here. Follow back. Let me see. Are we seeing them on the Telegram page? Because I need a response so that we can know what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay, we're all seeing it, right? Okay. I need multiple confirmation so that we can move forward and then call it a night.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
On the Telegram page, is there?
Right, see, I can dump it on this page here, or it's pretty okay. Hold on. Okay. All right, just hold on for me. Okay. Let me try and see one more time if I could paste this on the group. Let me try my luck. I know I've done it before. Okay. So let's see. For some people that are not on the page, that's why. I don't know if you can see it on the chat box. Okay. Now, all right. So we can open the stuff on the Telegram page. I think that's the text for it, and then just go to the listening party.
So should we do it now or later?
No, later. I'm just trying to just guide us on something.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. What I want us to do practically for our ON is, as I said, the next listening class, I'm going to just be doing audio and then we'll be responding. We'll be jumping our answers on the chat box. That's what we're going to do. But then what I want us to do is I'm going to send the link for the audio for this. Okay. I'm going to paste it on this, our chat box, and then on the Telegram page. So what you're going to do is that you just go to the listening party part, okay, and then try to answer the questions on this answer booklet and see whether there's some improvement, okay, in your listening party. And then, as I said, the next listening class, which hopefully you're going to have next week, okay, would hover around practical things so that we'll know how to really answer this listening party. Now, listening party is not that difficult, okay, if you follow through with certain things that I've mentioned and see that your scores will get better. Now, the challenge that people always have is that they miss, certain parts of it. As I said, they would have skipped like 2, 3, 4 before they now realize that they're in the 6th question. And then when you now get to the 6th question, you're already anxious already, and then your mind is already off, and then you're now losing more marks. Okay, so it's important that we engage this and then put them into practice. So we're taking questions, from candidates on the group, and I'll be willing to answer it. So as I said, you need to score a minimum of 30 to have 350, which is equal to a grade B. And then that's what is required for you from your OET exam for both nurses and doctors. Okay, all right, so I'll be taking your questions so that we can round up today. And I'll share the recordings on the. Yeah.
All right, sir. The 90 seconds, are we just to focus on the questions, taking note of the important words, or we should read the questions and the answers?
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for that question. Now, I'm reading both the questions and the options. I think that's what you mean, the options, right? So,
Yes.
so when you read the question, circle was important there. Okay.
Okay.
Because as I said, when you're reading the options, you will not really remember much. I can tell you the truth. You don't remember because you cannot tie anything to it really. If you try, just try it. Your eyes will picture it, your brain will see it, but then it will not make any meaning out of those options. So, but then you read your options just to guide you a little. Okay, but then the most important thing is that once you get your question right, okay, and then you're not married to what you're listening to the audio. So, for example, now let me give you an example. Let's say I'm reading part 1 now. Let's say this is the question 1, right? So if I'm reading question 1, I'm listening to the audio. I've already marked my most important, thing in that question, all right? I've already circled it, I've underlined it. So I've already know the question already. So as I'm listening to the audio, okay, in my back of my head, I already know the most important thing from that question. So I don't need to be looking at the question yet. What I'll now be looking at when I'm listening to the audio is now the options. I don't know if you get me. So as I'm looking for the options, as I'm looking at the options, as I'm listening to the audio, I'm looking at the options already. Okay, so you're looking at the options. That's why I say it's not very easy because you're doing both reading and listening. But then imagine that you're looking at the options and they forgot the question. All right, and then the person the audience has already passed that question part, and they're what's the question saying again? Oh, he said, and then you just go to the next one. Say, I didn't even understand. Okay, but then when you have the main thing from the question at the back of your head, what you're just looking at, you're just scanning through. You just fix your eyes on the options. Okay. All right, and you fix your eyes on the options, and then you're listening. As you listen, honestly, you get the answer because most times they just try to twist 1 or 2 things. And then try to use some time post. But then when you just look at the question, you don't need to be bothered about the question again. So what candidates usually do is this. They'll go to the option as they're listening. They'll go back to the question. How was this question saying again? Go back to the option. By the time I go back, option, question, you lose focus. Honestly, you lose focus. And then before you know, that one is gone. You're already in the next one. But then once you underline, then you pick what is important. For example, if I look at everything about, maybe they're talking about malaria, and then the question they talk about, the interviewer mentioned that the most important cause. I don't need to be reading everything. All I just know is this most important. That's what I'll be looking for in the audio. And then as I'm looking for it, as I put it at the back of my head that is most important, I'm looking at the options.
Okay.
Then once I just see something that looks like it, I take it immediately. And then move on to that. Okay? So that's how you flow, and then you're flowing that way, and before you know, you'll be having like 4/6, 5/6, or even probably 6/6. So that's how it works. Okay, that's how it works.
Well, at the initial parts, when you have the 90 seconds, you may not necessarily read the options. Just take note of the important things in the question.
Exactly, the question. Very important, so that it guides you thoroughly on how to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's now when you're now listening to the audio, you now know that, okay, fine. Your eyes is now fixed on the questions. So, for example, maybe the first question is telling you the cause of malaria is this. You already know what you're looking for already. Okay, so when the audio just speaks to you immediately, because once your eyes is gazed on the option.
I have another question.
All right, so it's recorded. So I'm with you, please.
Okay, I have another question.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. So signpost languages, they are basically to depict when to move to the next question and not necessarily pointing at our answers.
All right. So thank you for that question. So let me just reiterate. So usually, most times for OET listening, those signposts, they can mean 2 things. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Okay, so they can mean moving to the next question. Okay, especially when, let's say, for example, now I'm talking about malaria. Okay, let's say I'm talking about the causes of malaria, right? And then and I mentioned the cause of malaria is plasmodium, blah 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 blah. Okay, right? Yeah. Then if I say now, okay, now I need to be focused to know whether to go to the next one. Now, if I say now, the the latest or the most recent cause of malaria, and maybe your first question says, what is the latest discovery regarding malaria, for example? Let me give an example. And then you hear the speaker talking about malaria, background, malaria. And I said, now it has been found out that the most recent cause, you still know you're still dealing with the first question, regardless.
Yes.
Yeah, because you've already underlined what you are looking for. Okay?
Yes.
And then you're
Yes.
using that answer. But another thing is that using words like now, secondly, and stuff would move you to the next question still, especially when you know you've answered that one. So, for example, if during my listening, I already know that okay, this is already the answer, okay, and then you just hear something like also, or maybe now there is, that since I've answered this question, and then the person that said now there is, the person has already moved from the first idea of your first question. Maybe first question was talking about cost. Maybe the second question was talking about the mode of transmission. So, for example, if I've spoken about the cost, and then the next time I use now, for example, is now I'll be talking about the mode of transmission. You know that this guy has moved, because I was able to underline my most important thing in my question. So I know that once I hear something following that signpost, so it's actually what follows the signpost that will guide you to know whether you are still in that same question or whether you should move to the next question.
Okay.
Yes. So what follows the signpost? Okay, but signposts are very important. By the time you practice your listening part C now, try as much as possible to pick up signposts. Now, it may not make sense at the beginning now. Trust me. You might not get the desired score in your first attempt, but try it, your third, fourth attempt, you see that your scores get better. You see that you now become more comfortable listening, to listening part C. All right. So I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Okay. So it is the same. Is it applicable to part B too, as per taking note of the keywords, and then yes.
Very much applicable. Very much applicable. As I said, part B is even much easier because really you finish a listening, that is for the question itself. So it's applicable, very much applicable. And I always tell candidates, try to score. Imagine that maybe in your part A. Now let me put it this way. No matter how you want to tackle part C, it will always be the most complicated part of the exam. There is no tutor that will give you the 100% T, because 80% is dependent on the candidate herself. But now this is the trick. Now, if you imagine that you scored like 18, let's say 20, right, over 24 in your part A, then maybe in your part B you scored 5. So that's already 25. There is no way, if you're a good candidate, okay, there's no way you're not at least 5 over 12 in your part C.
Okay.
Right. So in as much that I'm trying to encourage candidates that know your part C will always be complicated. In fact, it's part C that makes people not to really score maybe 450 or 500 in the waiting line, because they know that the part C is somehow. But then at least, the reason why we're doing this tip is that at least out of that 12, you can score like 8. And then maybe in your part B you score like 5 over 6, or maybe your part A is scoring like 19 or 20. You've passed the exam already. So the same thing applies for your part B. Look for the most important question, listen to the audio, look for signposts, and then move up. It's pretty straightforward because it's not a continuum. Okay, you just listen to a short extract and then answer a question. So it gives you time to think, gives you time to ponder, and gives you time to probably choose the right answer, or even not the wrong answer too. All right, so that's that for that.
Okay, but for part A, there's no tip. There's no tip for part A.
All right, so for part A, there'll be a class for part A tip. Okay, so I don't dwell so much in it now. All right, the other tutor will take that. Okay, I just came here for part C today. I understand that it could be cut crossing, in part A, part B, part C, but I'm sure that elaborately there will be a tutor that will take you on part A. Okay, and that will be communicated soon. Okay. So I brought this part C because a good number of candidates that reached out to me, all right, concerning their challenges. So I had to just make sure that we had a part C quickly before diving into other parts of the listening. Okay, so we'll actually take on other parts of the listening, that's listening part A and part B, and also, give us tips and, strategies that will help us score better marks, okay, and have improved outcome. I don't know if that answers your question, just I mean. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Thank you very much. So, I'm still expecting questions. We're rounding up since almost 9:30. We're placing the recordings on the group, but then I can take one more question. Right. Okay. So no question there. All right. So I'll be posting the recordings on the group and possibly the materials, but the recording should be enough. The slide might not
Hello,
speak
brother.
to you. Hello? The slide might not speak to you. All right. So thank you all for joining. I don't know if anybody here does not have a speaking partner that I created on the group. For the nurses, I'm going to send yours this night or tomorrow morning. I had some challenges, okay, with one or two nurses, and I'm trying to place them somewhere. All right. So by the time I saw that, I'll post the updated speaking class. And I'm sure that we're trying as much as possible to meet amongst ourselves. All right. So that we can, improve, okay, in our speaking. All right. So in the absence of any questions, I'll call it a night. And do have a wonderful night rest. And good night. Okay. Precious Akinisi, you can send me a message. You can send me a message. I think I'm your next tutor for your writing. So you can send me a message and then I'll discuss that. All right. So good night, everyone, and have a wonderful night rest. Bye-bye.
Good night,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.